All right, so before we introduce tonight's guest,
Yep.
world famous, I'd say.
Yep.
Columnist, author, triathlete. So this is going to be good. So tonight, Wiki is brought to you by Sports Barista,
Coffee to Conquer, and Precision Hydration.
Sweat Experts.
Yep.
Boom. So, Mr. Martyn Brunt, of course, people know you as a world famous triathlete. They might have read your book and they might have also read your column in 220 Triathlon. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank
you for that intro as well.
It's good, right? It's good.
Yeah. I'm going to write that down, actually. That was very good.
Well, we'll send you a copy and then you can soundbite it and, that'll be pretty good. Awesome. So thanks for giving us the time tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to start with a bit of an intro.
Yeah.
Or kind of a get to know you. And then we'll delve into some bigger questions, right?
Yeah.
So I was a bit cryptic with Martyn. I told him that we had something in common. We've actually got something in common with Emma Pallant, pro triathlete, but I think we did the same first triathlon, London Triathlon.
Absolutely right, yeah.
2011, did you do it then?
My first was 2003.
Oh, so close.
I realise it's kind of like the Paleolithic era for quite a lot of people now, I think. So, yeah, that was 2003. But yeah, London, I mean, it was, it shows you how long ago it was that I was able to enter it about 8 weeks before, no trouble. Whereas I think if you tried to do that now, you'd have to enter about 8 years before, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. So yeah, it's good. See the London Triathlon link. It's good. It's cool. So I'll hand over to Lauren.
Yeah.
I'm done for a bit now. So.
You've had your moment to shine.
Definitely.
Okay, so you describe yourself as a mediocre triathlete, yet you've done 70.3, you've done Ironman, Isomat, and other endurance events. What do you have to do, or what do you have to achieve to consider yourself a good triathlete?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think consistency. I've occasionally done good things, but I generally speaking, I'm resolutely middle of the pack, and that seems to be my natural place. I remember training really hard for an Ironman in Lanzarote. I mean, I really went for it, and I did about 11 and a half hours, and then I did Austria the year after, which I didn't train very hard for, and I did exactly the same time. And I thought, why am I bothering? I might as well just enjoy it and doss about. It seems to be my pace. So I occasionally do something that's good, but most of the time it's strictly middle of the pack. And I think people look to me to achieve that kind of benchmark.
I'd say 11 and a half, especially Lanzarote, which is a tough course.
Well, any Ironman is pretty decent.
But Lanzarote is known for being
horrible, windy.
Horrible, windy.
Yeah, it's horrible. My friend Neill lives there now. I mentioned Neill a few times in my columns and in my book. He's an old mate, and he takes the jokes very well. And he's moved out there, which is just another reason for me never to go back to that island.
I sort of, as a reader of your column, I sort of feel like I know him quite well, even though I've never even met the man, you know.
Lots of people say that to him, and in fact, he's told me several times that he's been in Lanzarote, and people have been reading either a magazine or a book or something like that, and heard his name and gone up to him and went, "Is that you? Are you him? Are you Neill?" And he just has to sort of go, "Yeah, sorry."
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. We like Neill.
And for those who either haven't encountered or who haven't read the Accidental Ironman, tell us a little bit about it and why people should go out and read it.
Oh, excellent. Well, it's very reasonably priced. It's also it's a very handy kind of depth So if you want to put your front wheel under your front wheel when you're turbo training, it's absolutely spot on for that. That was planned. It came about. I've been writing the column in the magazine for quite a few years. This is absolutely true. I'm not embellishing this at all. I was approached by the publishers, whose a kind of line to me was, we tried to get the Brownlees to write a book for us, but they've gone to Penguin for a lot of money. So we thought we'd try someone at the other end of the scale. And I just thought, how could I refuse? So they kind of asked me to do it, really. And I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I've never written a book. And, you know, it's one of those things that I'm always trying to do different stuff in my life. So I thought, yeah, we'll have a go. And basically, it's a story of one of the Ironman races that I've done, but interspersed with it is how I sort of arrived at doing that particular Ironman via a whole heap of other races I'd done and various experiences. So I kind of tell the story of training for that Ironman interspersed with events through what I laughingly call my career. And it is basically a thinly veiled collection of knob gags with a bit of triathlon in between. And it was written very much with the sort of the amateur in mind. There's an awful lot of books about triathlon. There's not lots and lots of them about people who just sort of do the sport, the 95% of people who do the sport, really. And there's some good ones out there. I've got to know Andy Holgate very well, who wrote Can't Swim, Can't Bike, Can't Run, and then his follow-up book. And Andy's a lovely guy, and his is the same sort of thing, really, which is this idea of someone just an everyday sort of person taking up quite a hard sport, really. And I just decided, as is my way, to fill it full of inappropriate comments as well. So
all the stuff that doesn't make it into press, that's yes.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of that.
That's it. You wouldn't get that with Penguin.
No, they wouldn't touch me with a barge pole, mate. I am quite naughty with 220. I've been writing that column for 12 years now. And I always try and sneak jokes in under the radar when I send them a column. They've got quite good at spotting them. So they have to chop them out. Otherwise, if they went in, it would probably fill the letters page up really quickly. I wrote one not long ago. I got some sunburn on my shoulders, and I said, my shoulders are as pink as a dog's erection. And they cut that one out, unsurprisingly, because it's family.
I think that's quite reasonable, to be honest.
Yeah, good analogy.
Absolutely. You know exactly what colour pink that is, definitely.
So,
Nice.
so I am a bit naughty with them. They know it, though. They're ready for me.
That's good.
And so you are at the pool, you're minding your own business, you're keeping your lane, you're swimming your lengths. What gives Martyn Brunt pool rage?
Oh, God, where to start with that? I was swimming this morning. And this morning's pool rage was... what annoyed me this morning? Somebody in the next lane to me decided they'd try and race me after I'd already done, I forget how many 1,000 meters by this stage, and they'd only just got in. And they started kind of pushing up alongside me, trying to overtake. And I thought, I'm not having that. No way am I going to let that. So I ended up speeding up, really knackering myself, even though I'd done, quite a long distance by this stage. I wouldn't let him overtake me. So that's quite annoying. People who push off just in front of you, that's, oh, God, that's quite annoying. And people who... I always think that the bits at the end of the lane where it says slow lane, medium lane, fast lane, that's subjective. Depends who's in the pool. I occasionally think of myself as a fast swimmer, but if, I don't know, Adam Peaty was in the pool, I wouldn't be a fast swimmer. I'd be a very slow swimmer. So you should adjust your lane accordingly. But some people just swim in that lane and they go, well, I've swum in the fast lane always. And you can't get past them. It's like trying to swim through jellyfish. So it's, some bloody old git hanging there. So those are the kind of things that annoy me. But basically, I just need to get out more.
I think we can all relate, though. We can definitely all relate to
absolutely.
It's very handy to be able to do at least 50 meters of butterfly. Butterfly sorts it all out. If you can just do 50 meters of fly, lane to yourself every time, works a charm.
Yes, I can't do
have to
fly.
learn butterfly now.
Yeah, you can do it. You can. You clear
About
it.
5 meters, but
yeah.
And there's been a recent turnaround on the subject of chest bragging. Do you have a comment for us here at WikiWiki?
Oh gosh, what's the latest views on chest bragging? I'm slightly damned by my own my own fame on chest bragging, that I can almost never wear triathlon t-shirts because everybody pounces on me for doing it, and not deliberately, but at the moment I'm just wearing it's like a donkey animal charity t-shirt, and it did occur to me just before we had the call, actually. I thought, oh, should I go and put a triathlon t-shirt on? And I thought, no, I can't because I've spent so much time writing about chest bragging that I just, my own rules come back to bite me. I've written a couple of columns about this over the years, one of which caught on in quite a big way, where I kind of explained what t-shirt you can wear,
What it meant,
what you think it means versus what it actually means. And it was all stuff like, if you wear a sprint triathlon t-shirt, it means I haven't done an Olympic distance. If you wear a 70.3 t-shirt, it means I haven't done an Ironman. And if you wear an Ironman t-shirt, I haven't done Kona, and so on. It was, and all these things. So every time I wore a triathlon t-shirt, people would say to me, "Ha, you haven't done Kona." So it was, it did come back to bite me, but it seemed to catch on, that one. I had a recent chest bragging experience during the lockdown. Lots of people who live around me suddenly decided to take up running, having not done much running before. And there was someone opposite who had done a little bit of running, and they had decided to go out every day wearing a Tough Mudder t-shirt, and was swaggering around, and a Wolf Run t-shirt as well. And straight away I thought, I'm not having this. So I went out running in, I got one of the big guns out. I got sort of, I think it was Ironman Austria. I thought, right, we'll start with Ironman Austria. And every day I went running, I wore a different Ironman t-shirt, way past the point where she'd stopped doing it. That wasn't enough for me. I had to keep going. So I just basically ruined everyone's runs around here by swaggering about an Ironman t-shirt. Because that's what it's all about. It's not how good you are, it's how good people think you are.
Definitely. No, that's good.
And you might need a little bit of explaining with this one as to what you mean by it, but have you got any top tips for just getting in the water and swimming without doing the cold water dance first?
Yeah. Top tips.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've literally just written a column for 220 about the fact that there's no dignified way to get into water. If you're a triathlete or a swim runner or anything like that, no matter how you do it, there's all these pictures that you see on sort of race promotions of people sort of leaping athletically into the water. That's the pros. That's not the rest of us. The rest of us, there's about 10 different ways you can get in the water, and they all look ridiculous. The cold water dance is essentially where you walk into the water. You don't jump or dive or fall or anything like that. You just sort of tiptoe in. And the water hits the small of your back in your wetsuit. So it comes up your legs, and that's fine. And it goes around your waist, and that's fine. And then it hits the small of your back. At which point you sort of go up on your tiptoes and start going, oh, 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 and your hands come out to the side. Neill, my friend, sorry to mention him, he does this brilliantly. So naturally we all splash him. But yeah, that's the cold water dance. And you see lots and lots of people just desperately trying not to put anything above the small of their back in the water until the last possible minute. but there's all sorts of ways to get in the water, and they're all ridiculous. So yeah, keep an eye out for my next column. I've addressed that very topic.
There we go. Yeah, look
There
at
we
that.
go.
That's
There we
good.
go.
That's good.
And you recently wrote an article about living through lockdown with a bored triathlete, and you suggested ask them how their last race was. So, how was your last race?
Oh, the last one I did was about 3 weeks ago. It's only a run. It wasn't a triathlon. I haven't been able to get any tries in the diary for obvious reasons. But I did a run, and being me, I thought I'd ease myself in gently with a marathon. So I went straight off to Ironbridge and ran a trail marathon. And it went all right, actually. I was quite surprised at how easy I found it while I was doing it. Although afterwards, I was walking like a 2-pin plug for about 3 days afterwards. So yeah, it went okay. I don't think the tourists of Ironbridge were over keen at me sort of running through the middle of them, firing snot rockets in all directions, and basically looking like I'd been tasered up the backside. But yeah, it was all right. Yeah. So I did 3.5 hours, which is, I'm pleased with that. You know, for a man of my advancing years, I'll take that.
It's very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
all right. So yeah. So basically, what we're moving into now, we kind of feel like we've warmed you up a little bit with that. So the great thing is that there's always a story. So we're gonna try and get some stories out of you, and also combine that with some tips for our triathletes and our viewers. So what I would like you to think about is your worst experience of a transition and your top tips for getting transition right in a triathlon. Okay.
In all seriousness, the worst thing I ever did in the transition was grab the wrong bag. So this was in Ironman Lake Placid. I came out of the water, grabbed my bag, ran into the change tent and started unpacking my running kit. And I seriously thought, you know, your brain kind of thinks, oh no. I thought, can I do the bike leg in my trainers? Do I need my cycling? You know, that's what your brain tells you. But no, I had to run back through and get me back. So that was pretty stupid. But I've done all sorts of things, like I can't remember where my bike is. I remember at Plymouth years ago, there was a race I did where they'd run out of bike racks. So I racked in a hedge. And that wasn't the smartest move, because when I'd cycled off, there'd obviously been like thorns on my saddle, and thorns at my backside all the way down to the Plymouth Harbour. So that was a bit silly. I think my best advice to anybody, my serious advice to anyone, is when you rack your bike, just have a walk round and see where the swim entrance and the bike exit and the run exits are in relation to where you are, so you know which way to go. And when you're coming out the swim, when your head is full of water and you've been smacked around the ears and your goggles are steamed up, you know exactly where to go to get to your bike. So count the racks and then leave something, a coloured towel or, you know, something about your bike that stands out from everybody else's, so that you can stagger up to it more quickly than anybody else. The other thing I would say is never, ever, ever take track pump into transition. Pump your tyres up before you rack your bike. If you take a track pump into transition, every bugger wants to borrow it. Never do it.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I've never been that person, but I've used someone else's track pump. So actually, yeah. Cheers, man. Could I just use that? Yeah. Wicked. So, same kind of question for the swim. So, we'll say sort of open water swimming. So, there must be a funny story there somewhere. And also your tips. Obviously, we've spoken about the cold water dance, but other tips for, you know, maybe beginners that haven't experienced open water yet.
Okay. 2 tips for you. One serious and one not. The not serious one is never stand within about 5 meters of me during the start of a race, because there's only one thing I'll be doing in my wetsuit. And you don't want to be anywhere near me. So just leave me to it. Give me a wipe.
I'm guessing it might warm them up though.
Yeah. I'm doing my bit for everybody by warming the water. So, a serious tip is learn how to turn at turn buoys. Lots of people do a lot of training about swimming in a straight line or in big circles, but they don't practice turns. And turns come up quite a lot in a lot of races. Now, you don't have to, I've actually, because I do a bit of open water swimming as well. And I do this kind of barrel roll turn thing. So I come in and flip over onto my back. And you don't have to do things like that. But just devise a strategy for you that means you can get around the corners as short a distance as possible, but without getting clumped around the head or booted in the face, because it's all about getting through quickly and safely, really. So practice turns. People always forget to do that. Stories about swimming. I remember I did I've done a couple of, I did the National Cold Water Swimming Championships last year. Have you ever heard of those?
No, but they sound awful.
They sound cold.
It's in Tooting-Bec Lido, so it's an outdoor pool, but it's unheated, and it took place in the second week of January, and the water was 1.4 degrees, I think, or 1.5 degrees, and it's a series of races, no wetsuits, it's trunks, swim hat, goggles, and that's it. And someone, I can't remember who, persuaded me to have a go at this. And being an idiot, I said, yeah, all right, fine, I'll have a go. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I'll tell you what the worst that can happen is. Your brain freezes and you can't think straight. And I've never felt cold like it. I've swum in lots of open water stuff and been sort of 11, 12, 13 degrees and functioned okay, actually. I don't seem to struggle too much there. But by God, there's a difference between that and 1 degree. Jesus. But it's an absolutely great fun event. And they hold it every 2 years. And, it may be on next. It's due to be on next year. It may be on. We'll see. So I would heartily recommend it. But it was just, I remember jumping. They won't, you're not allowed to dive in. You have to start in the water. So you stand on the side. And the race is going on all the time, and then you step forward, by which time your heart's going at 1,000 miles an hour because you can just see everybody's teeth chattering. And they say, right, enter the water, and you get in, and it's like, I can't describe it. It's almost like you go into a sort of suspended animation. It's so cold. But they don't start the race until everybody's got their shoulders under the water.
Oh.
So I'd kind of put my shoulders under. And the guy in the next lane to me was so cold. He just froze with his shoulders above the water and he couldn't move. And I was shouting at him. I apologies for this. I went, get your fucking shoulders under the fucking water. Like, I couldn't speak and I was trying to tell him, get under the water. So it was horrendous, but tremendous fun. I'd heartily recommend it. And they give you mulled wine as well, which is lovely.
That's all right. It sounds like something.
We'll take your word for it.
It sounds like in my mind I'm seeing that SAS Who Dares Wins when Ant is looking at him and it's like snow and they've cut a hole in the ice and like get under, swim under it, stay there, wet. Oh man, I'm not good with the cold.
Cold water does weird things to your brain. It just stops you thinking. It's amazing.
Yeah. Definitely, absolutely. So moving on swiftly to the bike. It's always a good story about the bike, I'm sure.
Lots of them, yeah.
So should we go story first and then tips?
Yeah.
Story for cycling at Ironman Canada. The swim was in a place called Penticton, and as I entered the water, I skinned my toe. I just caught my toe on a rock or a stone or something. You know, when you just get a little flap of skin on the end of your toe, you just catch it. And I thought, ow. And then of course, you know, then 2,000 people all jumped on me as we started on the swim. So I sort of forgot all about it, really. And we got out and off we went on the bike. And I'd been going, I was going quite well, I seem to remember. And we'd been doing about 35, 40 miles, at which point, inevitably, I needed to pee. And I thought, well, I'm going well here, so I'm not going to stop. So we got to a long downhill section. And I thought, right, I'm going to do the shameful thing, and I'll just drop a leg, concentrate, and let nature take its course. Which, as I get older, that gets easier and easier, I have to say. But this was a good while ago now. So anyway, I did that. And sure enough, you know, it happened, and it ran down my leg, into my sock, into my shoe, where it hit the toe that I'd skinned. I don't think I've screamed more than any other time in my life. I've never felt pain like it. I remember we went through this kind of, North American races are great for supporters. They all come out on the road and they're all waving and holding banners and all that kind of thing. And these poor people were treated to this man flying down through this thing, screaming at the top of his voice something about toes and urine. I don't think they could make any sense of it. So yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the bike leg at Canada. It was ages before my toe stopped throbbing. So
how was the run on that time?
I remember thinking about it during the run, but I had other problems by then. I was getting cramped every 10 yards. So by that time, it wasn't even in the top 10 of problems I was having. So. As for tips, oh dear. If you're out on group training rides, never be the one on the front, obviously. That goes without saying. You know, professional cycling is all about not being at the front until the very last second. And you should take the same approach when you're out training. Let some other poor sod do all the work. And just, you know, and steal the glory. That's what sprinting is all about. I think people will tell you to spend a lot of money on cycling. And I think you can spend a hell of a lot of money on cycling, an absolute fortune. I think there's a lot to be said for finding a bike that you're happy with. And it may not be the most expensive one, or it may not have the most up-to-date components. Just, you know, if you find a bike you feel comfortable on and you ride well, that's fine. At our kind of level, you know, if you're pushing for, you know, you want to become an elite, or if you are trying to qualify for, you know, GB level and stuff like that, then you might want to have a think about, you know, getting more aggressive setups on your bike, or trying to get some you know, high-end components. But, you know, if you're racing for pleasure and you've got, sure, you're training properly and you're training seriously, but you've got PBs in mind, find a bike that works for you. And don't necessarily be dazzled by all the really expensive stuff. That's my way of saying I've got a crappy old bike. And it does for me.
And it's nice when you're overtaking people on their expensive bikes, you know. So there's a bit of something in it. And you've always got an excuse as well, you know. Oh, well, I probably would have had him, but he was riding a better bike than me, so you know.
It's funny. That's a very British attitude. When I've raced in America, I remember racing in Florida, and the American attitude is, doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you buy the most expensive bike you can afford. And that's kind of quite an American thing, you know. They like to just have really, really expensive bikes. Whereas in Britain, it's very much the attitude that if you're going to have an expensive bike, you'd better be good enough to use it. Otherwise, you'll just have loads of people cycling past you going, yeah, you twat. You know. And I was in America. I was on a relatively old bike compared to them, and I was flying past all these people, and I was doing that. I was thinking, look at you, you tosser with that. And they were giving me the thumbs up and saying, good job, way to go, and all this. I thought, we're so different.
So true. This is true. Right, so moving on to the run now. So we'll go top tips for the run.
Yeah.
And then hit us with the story.
A story about running. Oh gosh. Top tips for the run. I'll give you a very specific tip related to distance running, and it's probably more applicable to marathons than anything else. But when you're running a marathon, this is my serious tip. When you're running a marathon, you'll be going well, and you'll get to the halfway mark, and lots of people that have been running around you will suddenly start speeding up, or they'll suddenly start getting away from you. And my number one marathon running tip: let them go. Do not be tempted to be dragged along with them, because I absolutely guarantee you, if you're on your pace at halfway and they speed up, you'll be seeing them again in about 5 miles time, and they will be either walking or going backwards or looking like they've been shagged with a ragman's trumpet. They will be all over the place, and you will have stuck to your pace and be absolutely fine. I know so many people who get lured into going too hard at halfway because everyone around them has kind of picked up the pace a bit to kind of get a bit in the bank. Never works. So stick to your own pace. Whatever you set out to do, if you're still on it at halfway, stay with it. It's working. The old saying: if it feels about right, you're going too fast. So that's probably my tip for that. Stories about running. There's a few. I did Bristol 10K, and the running club that I'm in has got some really, really good runners in it, and I am not one of them. But obviously I wear the same vest as them. So they were all invited. They're so good runners. They were invited in front of that tape you get at the front of the race, where it's kind of good runners,
nice.
And then sort of also ran tossers behind. And I was very much in that group. So that the elite runners all went off, and then they let the rest of us go. And when I got to the end, I went up and spoke to my club mates who were the elite runners, and we're all standing there wearing the same vests. At which point the race organisers come over and say, would you all like to come this way to the special elite athletes after race tent? And I thought, all right, I'll just go with them. So I just walked in behind them because they thought I was one of them. And it's like another world when you go in there. You know, when if you finish a running race, you've got to, you pick up your medal, you get a bottle of water and a banana, and then you get kind of put through this sheep dip where you've got to battle with about 500 people to get your bag back. And then that's it. Go home, shove off. If you're an elite, you get your own tent. They bring you the papers, coffee. There's people bringing you sweets. There's free massages. And I had the lot. I had absolutely all of them. I thought sooner or later they're going to rumble and I'm going to get chucked out. But no, I think they looked at me a bit suspiciously. But they seemed quite... so I got away with it. And that's the closest I've ever come to being an elite runner. It'll never get better than that.
No, that's the highlight for sure.
Peak, yeah.
Obviously, we've never experienced that either, so we didn't even know that was a thing.
It's amazing. I didn't until I went in there. It was astonishing. And I thought, my teammates are going to grass me up. But the 3 or 4 of them, they're good mates of mine anyway, but 3 or 4 of them are quite shifty as well. So I think they were quite pleased to see someone blagging.
So one of the things that we get a lot from people that are just getting started in triathlon is that as great as it is for us to talk to coaches and professional triathletes, you know, they're kind of in a different world to age groupers and you know, the kind of the normal everyday people doing the sport. So how do you juggle working, life, you know, writing your columns, writing your books, and training for triathlon? Like, how do you make that work for you?
It differs from. I've struggled with it a bit over the years. It has to be said. There've been various times when I've tried really hard to qualify for GB races and things like that, and I've upped my training, or if I've got a particular race that I wanted to do well at. So it changes, but what I've found works for me is just to have a fairly standard routine of fixed sessions, which are the basis of my training week, if you like. But they're fixed times rather than fixed sessions. So I know which mornings I'm going to go swimming, and I kind of plan around that, and I know which evenings I'm going to go running, and I plan around that, and I know when, Sunday morning I'm going to go out on my bike, and that's that. And I kind of get into a routine, even if I change what I'm actually doing in the session. So sometimes I might just go out for a long ride. Other times I might just go out to the nearest hill and do horrible hill reps. Another time I might go out with a club and hang on the back for as long as I can before they drop me in the middle of nowhere. So it varies, but the time remains the same, if you like. So I kind of try and do that. And I find as well, I've learned not to beat myself up if it doesn't work. There was a period where I almost made my training like religion. I'm gonna do this at this time, and I'll be rushing away from work to get to a circuits class or to get to a spinning class. And stuff happens. I'm a lot more relaxed about that now. If I'm late, or if I miss a session, I'm late or I miss a session. That's just life. And I'm not going to make it into the Olympic team, unfortunately, much as I try. So it really doesn't matter that much. I know we all want to do well, but you have to keep it in balance. I'm very lucky. My family are very understanding about the amount of training I've done over the years. I have become mildly obsessed with it at various times. It helps that my wife is an equestrian competitor. She does 1-day events and 3-day events. So it's a bit like horse triathlon. So that means that whatever I'm doing, she can't complain because she's out for hours doing stuff as well. So family-wise, I'm pretty lucky in that regard. But make sure people understand what you're training for and why, and how much it means to you, and how they can help you, and that it's theirs to enjoy too. So if they're going to come and watch you and be part of it, include them in things. Just lots and lots of little things I've tried over the years to try and include the family in stuff. And mostly in my case, it involves taking them to exotic places to go and do races so they can have a holiday while I'm flogging myself up some mountain.
Sounds like a good
pretty stupid, but yeah, it's taken me a while, and there's no right or wrong answer, but just find the right balance for you. And if it doesn't work, if you miss a session, don't beat yourself up, and don't try and make up for missed sessions. If you miss a session, you miss it. Yeah. Don't try and do 2 the next day. Down that route lies injury. Let me tell you.
Definitely. Okay, so unless Lauren's got any more questions,
I think so.
So we're gonna finish on a high, because I kind of feel like we need to delve a bit more into Neill as a character. He's a popular man. Lots of people watching it going, "Oh yeah, we know Neill." So we're gonna finish on top 3 Neill stories.
Ooh, Neill stories. I first went to do Lanzarote with him. Neill's a complete, even before it became fashionable, Neill's a complete germaphobe. He absolutely, he panics terribly about getting a cold before a race or anything like that. To the extent that for a long time his nickname was Wet Wipe, because that was just our view of him. This particular race, he virtually locked himself in his hotel. We were all staying in different hotels, and he'd booked half board, and he absolutely, before the race, he would not come out to eat with us. he'd almost wave to us from the foyer of his hotel, because he was going in to eat his own meal because he didn't want to catch any germs off the rest of us while we were going out. So we started calling him Bin Laden, because around that time, Bin Laden had been found hiding in his compound and wouldn't come out. You see, so he was known as Bin Laden for quite a long time after that. So that's one. I thought of another one a second ago. What was that? What did he do? Oh, I slipped my mind. I just thought of. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Well, this is more a story against myself than him, but he was very much involved in this. We were guests at the 220 annual awards a few years ago. And I should say we were invited as guests, not award winners in any way, shape or form. And we were on a table with Dave Scott, who was the 6-time Ironman World Champion and absolute legend of the sport. Magnus Backstedt, Tour de France and Paris-Roubaix winner, and all sorts of other people who had won awards for being the fastest age grouper at Kona and all this kind of thing. And Neill was driving. Nobody else was drinking except me. So I drank everybody's wine. And I got so drunk that I was sitting there telling Dave Scott about my Ironman times. Can you imagine how embarrassing that sounds in the cold light of day? The 6-time world Ironman champion having to listen to me going on about what I did at Lanzarote. But he's such a nice man. He was absolutely lovely. Anyway, I got smashed. I got absolutely drunk. And then we went back to the hotel. I was sharing with Neill. And I was so drunk that I got a bit ill. So next morning, with a massive hangover, we had to go back to the venue because there was a 10K. And I was running in this 10K. And I'd got a massive hangover. I threw up in Neill's car on the way there. And Neill always has quite nice cars. And he basically had to help me to the start line because I was determined I was going to do this race. I got there about half an hour beforehand and fell asleep in a chair. And they had to wake me up to do the start race. And I did it. I ran. I did actually do it. I have never seen anyone laugh as much as Dave Scott when he saw me. He was absolutely beside himself with laughter at the state I was in. But God bless him, Neill looked after me that weekend. If it hadn't been for him, I'd probably still be there. Absolutely horrendous. And then the final very quick Neill story is he thinks I'm a bit of a bad penny. I always turn up when he doesn't want me around. And he, not very far away from where he used to live and where I live now, he'd had a bump in his car. He'd shunted someone. They were turning right, and he hadn't braked in time because he drives big cars and he's only a little fella and he can't see over the dashboard. And he shunted this car. And as he was exchanging details and trying to sort out airbags and things like that, he looked down the road and saw this cyclist coming towards him. And he knew straight away, oh no. And it was me. I just happened to be coincidentally coming up the road. And apparently he could see my grin from 200 meters away. And the penny dropped who it was. So I ended up helping him push his car off the road because he'd really smashed the front of it in. And then I spent 10 minutes on Facebook telling absolutely everybody what had just happened. So God bless him. He's a good mate. He's a fun guy and a good mate. So yeah. Cheers, Neill.
Yeah, he's a good lad. We like Neill. Awesome, Martyn. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Mouth hurts from smiling so much. But yeah, it's great to talk to you. Yeah, we'll put a link to the book for sure. See if
very kind. It's available in all good charity shops.
Absolutely. Yeah, have you got any follow-ups in the pipeline?
Yeah, I'm writing book number 2, which I'm trailing as after the Accidental Ironman. I swore I'd never write another book, and this is it. It's it's going to be about. I'm trying to run 100 marathons at the moment, and I'm kind of well on the way now. So it's going to be a book more about ultras and marathons and that kind of thing. But there'll obviously be a fair bit of triathlon in there as well, because I've carried on doing those at the same time. So yeah, I'm just working on that at the moment. It's about 3/4 written, very much in the style of the previous one, as in just knob gags. And I'm writing my own reviews on the back to save sort of anybody else from doing it. I said when I wrote the last book, I said I'm not going to read the reviews, because down that way lies madness as far as I'm concerned. And there's nothing I'm going to do with that information. I'm not really an author. But somebody did send me one, which they said, oh, you've got to look at this. And it was on Amazon. And someone gave me 1 star out of 5. And the review simply said, bought for someone else. That was it. And I just thought, I couldn't believe someone's gone to all the trouble to give me a rating for a book that they haven't bought for themselves and just passed on without reading. So I'm actually having that on the back of the book. That's going as a review. I love that. That's brilliant. So yeah, that's the less successful follow-up will be out hopefully sometime next year.
Nice. All right. Well, maybe we'll get you back on and we'll talk about we'll do like a big book release.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good, wouldn't it?
Splendid.
Yeah.
I mean, count me in.
Yeah, you can read some sections of the book and stuff, you know. He'll be good.
Yeah,
Make it like
there's nothing sells a book more than a West Midlands accent. That's what I would.
Exactly right, Martyn. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
See you soon.
Thanks very much. Great to meet you.
Angie.
Cheers, guys.